Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcasts with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Future Tech Podcast. My name is Chris Amsler, and our guest today is Marco Abele from Tend. How are you, Marco?
I'm feeling very good. Thank you. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you for asking. Marco, give us a little bit about your background.
Yes, certainly. So I'm a previous in banking for almost 20 years. I was at one of the or two of the most successful global financial institutions. First in my career at Deutsche Bank in the corporate investment bank area, had various roles there. And then 12 years afterwards at Credit Suisse in Switzerland, mainly in the private banking wealth management area. And also there I had kind of various roles. My background in education is in law, in legal. I made a diploma in Germany as well as in Paris and in France. And then I did an MBA in the US at Duke University as kind of complementary from my MBA business perspective.
Very good. So, and you're in Switzerland now, yes?
Yes, that's true. I'm based in Switzerland.
Very good. And I understand that there's a crypto valley in Switzerland. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I'm sitting in the middle of that, basically. So it's in Zug. It's a small town, a bit outside of Zurich. But a lot of companies are there previously for other areas. But since 1-2 years, it had got a strong focus on the entire blockchain community and cryptocurrency community. A lot of companies have settled down there, especially Ethereum, created their foundation there. And so it emerged to be kind of a real center for blockchain developers and for ideas around how the blockchain can transform the world. And a lot of companies have now incorporated their company in Zug and the Crypto Valley, how it's called. And it's a nice ecosystem of law firms, of auditors of the government there locally, and a lot of people actually who are super interested in bringing this technology forward. So it's a small Silicon Valley just for the blockchain.
Oh, very good. How did you get interested in blockchain?
In my last role, when I was Chief Digital Officer at Credit Suisse, we were looking at a lot of innovations across the board and of course, more disruptive ones as well, which I consider blockchain among them, and that is several years back. And that was the first touch point I got into it. And I think since then it developed on the private side a lot of interest, how things are working. And after 12 years career, I decided then to do something outside, and I felt blockchain is the new internet. And I wanted to be part of it, of this new world, how it's getting now shaped. And so, it started a few years back to get deeply interested into that technology.
Okay, very good. And in that new world, you're bringing us Tend. What can you tell us about Tend and how that works?
Yeah, Tend is a platform that allows people to invest into things that matter to them, into topics and objects that reflect the passion or particular interest of people. So be it vineyards, be it classic cars, be it watches, be it handbags, be it jewelry. So things that have a personal affection typically to people, and they are in type of value very precious, and they have been growing in value over the last decade quite significantly. And it's just a way of alternatively spending your money and investing into something that typically today's provider are not offering in that manner. And we enable that in the form that we create co-ownerships on the platform, meaning you don't own such an object alone, but you own it with a few like-minded people together. And I think the trick is that if you own such a beautiful object together with others, you're still allowed or enabled to experience this beautiful object, let's say a beautiful car. If you own it, you're allowed to drive it once a year together. with your family and friends and have a great and memorable experience around that. So it's a combination of a platform of investments foremost, but still the possibility to enjoy and experience into invested object.
So how does that work? Let's say I'm looking for a really pricey car. I'm not able to afford it outright, but I find mutually interested people. Can you tell us how that specific process might work?
Yeah, so not necessarily you need to be already a group. I believe on my platform we have enough people who have the common interest. So what we do is based on the interest of our customers, we source such precious objects. And the important is it's an investment object, so it's not a consumption good. So typically these are more collectible items. And once we source it, we convert it onto the platform in the sense that we create a certificate, we create then the co-ownerships in the form of digital tokens. Those tokens will be reflected on the blockchain through smart contracts. And let's assume a collectible car is divided into 10 co-ownerships, respectively 10 tokens. Then 10 people of my platform can actually purchase such tokens, meaning ownerships of the car, and co-own it. What happens then once you are owner of that? Number one, you obviously have access to see and experience that object according to the predefined way. But also, of course, you get the proceeds and the benefits of the appreciation of that object as well. So it's a kind of marketplace platform where we bring topics or let's say more objects on the platform, and people can actually buy a share of that and co-own it.
Okay, I see. And where are you in your roadmap?
We just started the company in last autumn, but already developed an alpha product, meaning that it's a digital interface that you can manage all these objects on the platform. And we're going to launch it in April in Switzerland to select 100 customers to start with. And throughout the year in Switzerland, we're going to grow, hopefully, in the customer base according to our plan up to 1,000. And in the next year, 2019, we would love to go to a first international market then. So we are in the phase of getting ready to roll out in a pilot phase to the first customers the application and pilot and learn from their feedback and put more and more assets in on the platform based on their preferences.
Very good. What future assets do you see coming on the platform? You mentioned cars, collectibles, like watches, et cetera. What are some things you maybe see a little bit more long term? Yeah,
so we had, it's interesting, I had just a session with some customers who signed up for the April, and they came up with some really out-of-the-box ideas of what they would like to have, and we're going to see whether we can enable all that. The big preference in the first phase is clearly for collectible cars. It is for art pieces, but very specific in our case, modern photography. And it is for vineyards. There's a strong interest on it. And we're in Switzerland, so watches are, of course, a topic as well.
Very good. So I understand that you have your token sale going on, and is that coming to a close pretty soon? Where are we with that?
Yeah, that's finishing in 4 days. And also there we did quite an innovative approach in the sense that we used today's laws in the same sense of corporate and security laws to implement actually a capital raise through the token issuance, so reflecting really security into the token sale. And if you were following latest commentary from the regulators, which is totally going to that direction. So actually we anticipated that such a ruling will come up, and we are one of the very first months ever to actually do such a security token sale, at least in Switzerland, according to the Swiss corporate and security laws.
Well, speaking of security, that seems to be a big topic this year, especially with the volatility that we've seen in 2017. And what are your future viewpoints on security and regulation, maybe for the rest of the year and going forward?
Yeah, I think, well, personally, I think ICOs are really a very beautiful mechanism to bring a lot of innovation to the world. So I think the world needs more innovation, and that's fantastic to have this catalyst. However, we need to bring it into territory where it's acceptable especially from an investor protection point of view. And hence I feel that over the next 12 months, we see a lot more regulation coming in, hopefully a very sensible one, to put a bit of framework around how you can launch an ICO and how actually this is going to be compliant to protect that kind of innovation power it has. But on the other side, also protecting investors with their rights they should get around. So finding that middle ground, I think, is the work that a lot of the countries will embark on over the next 12 months. And that's good, and that's great for the world that actually something is getting there that allows a lot more people to participate in innovative projects. On the other side, a lot more people who have ideas actually getting access to capital in a way that is modern and is up to the digital age where we all live in.
Very good. So with your with that kind of outlook, what do you see as maybe a regulation that's going to enhance Tend in particular, or something that will enhance Tend and its attracting customers?
So for me, the important was that I was actually dividing the capital raise and the token set with the product completely. So I think that was something that regulators really got irritated, that a lot of projects, they mixed up several functions into a token. So for me, the most benefit in regulation is that I get a fundraising in a manner, and we will have multiple ones over the years. We have a long-term plan, right, which is sustainable and which is kind of recognized by the regulator, so you can operate with a lot of safety going forward. So that's a huge benefit, in my personal opinion. So for the product, I'm less actually dependent on the ICO framework. It's much more using the blockchain as technology to enable the fractionizing of the assets and the co-ownership and managing, the buy and sell on my platform. And for this, the blockchain technology will evolve better and better, and for me, the perfect match for what I'm trying to do.
Okay. And I'm sure along the way you've encountered, some obstacles that you've overcome. What can you tell us more about those particular obstacles and solutions that you've come up with?
Over my career, so I did a lot of innovation projects, launching new applications, launching new products. And I think the really biggest challenge I see generally in innovation is that in early stages, you really validate the idea intensively with customers, and you are not prefixed with your initial idea, and you start to iterate and learn and adopt it. So that's something that I find really critical and often, underestimated, that it takes a bit time actually to get that mix. So patience is also important, that you don't think, with the first 3 months you're going to conquer the world. Typically, it takes a 2-3 year cycle until a product actually is starting to get the right fit into the market. So that's probably one of the biggest learning I had, that you need, on the one side, persistence to go 2-3 years down the line, but in the same 2-3 years, be able to adapt and learn and change constantly onto what the customer really wants.
Very good. As you see Tend evolve over the next year or so, I typically think that people have an outlook in this space about what's going to happen by the end of the year and possibly into 2019. What's your long-term viewpoint of what Tend is going to be able to do?
So my big topic is tokenizing the world. So it's really broad, because the technology allows us to tokenize kind of everything that is around us in the physical space. But my big focus was on high value, high-end investment objects. And I see that there's a lot out there actually that is becoming unlocked, which is today hidden. So a lot of rich people do have a lot of these beautiful objects, and they're just in containers or in garages or cellars. And I hope that over the next 10 years, we can unlock a lot of these beautiful and unique and precious objects and make it available to a broader audience in the world, and make people, in that sense, emotionally rich and intellectually rich, because they get exposure to this kind of really special investment opportunities. So that's how I see that actually over the next decade, Tend could be able to unlock something that is today very, very hidden and make it accessible to a broader audience.
Well, very good. Well, Marco, we're almost out of time today. I was wondering if you have any final words to say about Tend.
For me, a very, very exciting journey because we try to now build the product here in Switzerland, but we have plans to go into many, many countries over the next 5-6 years, and to launch it in Latin America, in Asia, but also in Europe. And so that's something that I hope will make people in many regions the access to something that they really desire. So that's basically that's my big mission, and that's what people should know about Tend.
That's a great mission. Where can people contact you or find out more about Tend?
It's just on the website, so www.tend.swiss. And there are all the details that you can contact me through also LinkedIn and the social channels, Twitter. Everybody can find me on the social channels as well.
Very good. Marco Abele with Tend, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'd like to thank all of our listeners for tuning in to the Future Tech Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner of Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.